Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing today? My name is Matt Jarbo. Welcome to 3 Buck Theater. I haven't done a live stream in a while, but I felt today was a good day to do it. If I'm being honest with you guys, if I'm being 100% honest, I feel like today is a good day because it almost feels like the tides they are changing. You know, that Bob Dylan song from the opening of Watchmen now kind of feels more realistic than anything else, doesn't it? It kind of makes you go back to that opening song from what I think is probably Zack Snyder's masterpiece, his ultimate masterpiece, is Watchmen. But that opening credit sequence really does speak volumes about where things have been moving over the span of the last I don't know, I can't even say like the last little while. It feels like it's been nuts. So the Snyder Cut, we've been talking about it now for a long time. We've been talking about it now. We've been supporting it. A lot of us have been supporting it, and we've been attacked for supporting it. A lot of people out there, anti-Snyder Cut people, anti-Snyder Cuts, stands, people that want to like get on the I just hate me some Zack Snyder train. Why? Because it was profitable at the time. Yes, we can agree that the Batman v Superman theatrical cut was garbage. But that wasn't Snyder's fault. That was an executive edict coming in from the high brass at Warner Brothers, who wanted it trimmed down for time at the cost of exposition during the first two acts. Then, of course, we got to see the movie on home video a couple months later. And hey, guess what? This is true, by the way. It spent, when they released it on home video in July 2016, so almost 4 years ago, it spent 5 weeks at the #1 spot for DVD and Blu-ray. It was #1 for 5 weeks following its release. Guess what was #2 for, I think, 4 of those 5 weeks? The Killing Joke on Blu-ray and DVD. That is how popular DC movies and properties were in the summer of 2016. And you wonder why Suicide Squad did as good as it did in August. Because it had a lot of that push, a lot of that lead in, I think, from the Ultimate Cut, the Ultimate Edition of BVS. And that's one of the reasons why they released the extended edition of Suicide Squad on home video, which wasn't anywhere. It was, it was one of those lamer extended editions. I didn't think it was very good. I preferred the theatrical. But the Ayer cut is something that we're going to have to now start talking about. I believe we're going to have to start talking about the Ayer cut, because it's possible we I don't want to sit there and say we've won. I'm not gonna throw up the victory flags, the ticker tape parade, none of that stuff. But it feels like it's moving, because today there's been people talking about it. There's been a lot of people talking about the Snyder Cut, and making motions as if it's happening. Okay. Now, the most important one here is this one. I want to bring this up. This is from Andy Signor, literally like 5 minutes before I started recording before I started going live. He says, one of our best Fandom Wire sources confirmed something changed today. It's happening. Stay tuned. We're trying to understand what it means, but I will always man up and correct the story ASAP instead of deleting tweets to save face. Now, the reason why this is important is because a couple days ago, over on Heroic Hollywood, they ran this story. Zack Snyder's Justice League cut may get released after all, exclusive. And really what it boils down to is they want you to watch Humberto Gonzalez's YouTube video. That's what they want you to watch, right? But it's just him saying, hey, some stuff's moving on it. We don't know what's going to happen. And a lot of people were pushing back against Humberto. They were attacking Humberto over this. And hey, look, hey, here's Andy Signor's tweet about it. Legit outlets are afraid to share the full story to release the Snyder Cut fans, and hacks like Heroic Hollywood / El Mayambi spit out lies. Oh, so here he is a couple days ago attacking Humberto Gonzalez, attacking him, and saying that he's a liar for his coverage over the Snyder Cut, because Peter Sciretta from Slash Film made a comment talking about the full story, but not going into detail about that full story. You have to understand, too, about Peter Sciretta. Peter Sciretta was the one leading the charge when the reviews first came out for Joker, saying that this is the kind of movie that could spark a violent outburst. He was the one who was doing that. And I called him out directly in a video, and I pissed him off. He was like, we got into it on Twitter over the title of the video. He felt it was unfair, so I agreed to change it in order to be more fair, because that's the kind of guy that I am. All right, I'm willing to work with people, but he still was out there saying these things, and we still have Andy Signore out here right now saying, "Oh, it's a bad movie." But then, here today, oh no, we're hearing something totally different now. It's totally happening. Oh, what happened in 2 days? What happened in 2 days? Is it perhaps, those people who have been following this story for quite some time have maybe a more solid, fundamental understanding of what's happening? And now, the reason why I'm bringing up Andy specifically is because Andy, when he was talking about, when he's been getting on this anti-Snyder Cut bandwagon for a while because it's profitable for him. He uses it as a way to antagonize, defame, belittle, and attack Snyder Cut fans, and treats them like Glenn Beck treated Obama when Glenn Beck was on Fox News by saying, "Come on to my show, call in, defend yourself." And people did, and they were still belittled and then ultimately removed from the phone call. I've had conversations with someone that actually happened to him. So you can see that there is a movement of people out there, and there have been for quite some time. There's been this massive, massive movement of people that have been attacking the Snyder Cut. But then again, like I said, something weird happened today, because Zack Snyder posted this morning to check out on the 20th, so on Wednesday, at I think it's 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be a watch-along party for Man of Steel. Now, he did that recently with with Batman v Superman. And at the end of that stream, he threw some serious shade at Justice League, I should say. He threw some serious shade at that when he says, wouldn't it be great if they made a sequel to this movie? Wouldn't it be great if these guys got together again and they teamed up? And it was, I'm paraphrasing, but he said that. He said that. And then the stream cut off, and it was a great end to an awesome director's commentary. And that, of course, is the issue here. Everyone at the time was like, what's going on? What's going on here? Well, if you've been following people, there's so many people that have been talking about it. Stephen, I think Colbert from Screen Rant's talking about it. I want to bring up an article from Screen Rant that he just sent to me before going live. Lightcast has been talking about, the Lightcast podcast has been talking about it. Matt over there. There's been, I know, Mad Max the Mandalorian, or Geeks and Gamers Entertainment, whatever he's going by now. He's talked about it. There are a lot of people that are supportive of this film, of wanting to see this movie, and they've been pushing and talking and researching and engaging over years now. And like I keep saying, where there's smoke, there is fire. And there is so much smoke for there to not be any fire whatsoever. So today, with that announcement, we also got this from El Mayambi. He says here, I'd watch this on Wednesday morning if I was y'all, just saying. Now listen, I don't want to jump to conclusions. I don't want to throw a ticker tape parade. I don't want to do none of that stuff. We ain't there yet. But not only that, but like Jeremy Conrad, who was anti-Snyder Cut, I posted a blog post this morning saying that he's hearing something that's going on. Can't confirm it, but he's hearing something. I've talked to Mikey Sutton about this at length, and Mikey has said to me, he's like, it's happening. There's this working on the contracts. We know that there were conversations taking place last November, because magically, one morning, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Ray Fisher, all came out on Twitter and were like, #release the Snyder Cut, right? And that was a big deal. Now, from what I hear on that one, it has everything to do with trying to get a social media talking about it in order to show the brass at now AT&T that there is something here worth checking out. We also now are, in that El Mayambi report from earlier in the week had a lot to do with the screening that took place earlier this year. So there is clearly things that have been happening. And now we're here. It feels like we're so close to the end, because everyone's talking about all the people who were against it. Now they're talking about it. So it's one of those things. But let's take a look here at this Screen Rant article that just came out actually this morning. That is from Steve M. Colbert. Is it Colbert or Colbert? I don't know. I don't want to get it wrong. But he says here, Justice League: The Snyder Cut could be HBO Max's The Mandalorian. Obviously, it's a little bit of a clicky headline. Obviously, it's a bit of a clicky headline, but he's not. But he's not wrong on that front. I'll tell you why he's not wrong. So it's not wrong because The Mandalorian blew up Disney Plus. It did. It really did, which is why the future of Star Wars is now going to be on TV, Disney Plus for a while. So here's what's going around. The buzz around the Snyder Cut continues to swirl. HBO Max seems like the logical place for a release, especially if it's released as a miniseries. Now, that in and of itself is something that's fascinating. Because when you go and you look at BVS and Justice League and what happened there, especially with the timing, you know that they done screwed the pooch. Okay, so like I said before, with BVS, it was an executive at Warner's that came in and said, "Hey, chop it down to a manageable size of I think it was like 245 or something." So they chopped out 30 minutes of exposition, which butchered the story. So we got that finally with the Ultimate Edition. So then everyone thought, oh, they're not going to make the same mistake twice. They're not going to do this again with Justice League. Oh, no, they did. Kevin Tushihara came down and he was like, I want a hard 2-hour cut. I want a hard 2-hour cut on Justice League because we want to make sure it gets in as many screenings per day. Because I think he knew the product at the time was not going to live up to fans' expectations. And the fans that had come in during that previous year that had fallen in love with these characters and the way that Snyder had built this universe out. And of course, no one could foresee the tragedy that would befall Zack Snyder. No one could foresee that happening, but clearly things had to happen and they made their move, and their move was bad. The Justice League should have been $1 billion movie. It should have been a $2 billion movie. There's no question in my mind about that. And they dropped the ball, especially when Infinity War, which was about the same length as BVS, when it first came out. And then, of course, Endgame was 3 hours and 58 seconds when it came out. And it's now the highest grossing film of all time at 3 hours and 58 seconds. So you can put a movie like this together and have it be long. But the way Warner's operates is they want to make sure they have as many screenings per day as possible. So they don't want to have a longer movie. And they cut out the second part of Justice League. Remember, it was going to be part 1 and part 2. We were supposed to get part 2 a few months ago, back in the end of 2019, if I recall correctly. But anyway, we know here that Warner's loves to screw around when it comes to this kind of stuff. They absolutely love it. So it says here that HBO Max is still missing a standout talking point for its original content like The Mandalorian was for Disney+, but they had the perfect candidate with Zack Snyder's Justice League. If it's released as a streaming series, HBO Max is in need of a tentpole property that can keep people talking from week to week. Yeah, they do. I mean, The Mandalorian, as soon as that Baby Yoda dropped it was fire from there. It was just fire. Everyone talked about that for weeks. And it goes on to say, in between Zack Snyder's 5-hour Justice League assembly cut and some additional photography proposed by Zack Snyder, the Snyder Cut could become exactly that. Now, I will be fair. As much as I think Snyder works well in the long run, I mean, the 4-hour ultimate cut of Watchmen is definitely something that would do well being chopped up as a miniseries. Very similar to Scorsese's The Irishman. Chopping that up into a miniseries does actually pretty well for certain people because it allows them to enjoy it. And I don't want to say in bite-sized chunks, but in chunks that are more easily digestible than sitting there through a 3 to 3.5, 4-hour epic. I mean, certain movies like Endgame can do that because they've got such a massive lead-in and people are willing to, they've already invested the time prior. So this is something a little bit different. But I think, yeah, if they were to do, I don't know if a 5-hour cut would do well. Maybe a 4-hour, 4 45-minute long episodes or something could probably do well. And of course, it's talking here, the next paragraph, talking about Disney Plus launching in 2019 and everything else. But there is nothing for HBO Max that's really kind of blowing my skirt up. Oh, there's new Looney Tunes. Yeah, I'll check out the new Looney Tunes. I think Looney Tunes are pretty fun. But I mean, like it goes on to say here that HBO Max is launching with a stacked library, some of the greatest films and shows in history, but its original content at launch is a letdown. And that's funny because that is a big, that is a big deal. As much as and I'll go back to Disney Plus here. When you talk about Disney Plus and you go like, yeah, they've got a lot of their vaulted content, that's there. What they, their original stuff is what people are looking for. It's kind of like Quibi is all original content, but there's nothing there that's like retro to kind of bring people in on a nostalgia factor. Although maybe now with the new season of Reno 911, maybe that could change. I don't know. But still, it is very much, missing. And Netflix has got all of these great shows, but it's still got a lot of older content. So, I mean, look at here. It says HBO Max has announced plans for a Green Lantern show, which would certainly qualify as kind of tentpole content we're looking for, but it hasn't even started shooting yet with coronavirus delays. It's going to take, or it's not going to arrive for a couple of years. It's not going to arrive for a while. I mean, and like he goes on to talk more about like all of this stuff. It's a long piece, but he's very I think I was on the wrong page actually. So I was on my bad. I had the wrong tab open. Damn it, my bad. Anyway, there's a lot there that we can talk about in regards to this. I feel that it would be the best course of action for Warner Brothers and HBO Max to put this thing out there as a miniseries. It would be financially beneficial to them. And I'll explain once again why. Because people out there who like to argue that it doesn't make any financial sense in order for this to happen, let me explain. So yes, Justice League itself was like what? I think rumored $300 million, right? The production, not including P&A, and it only pulled in $650 million. I don't think the Blu-rays did exceptionally well, but there's that. So you go, okay, they've already spent the money on it. Now, when it comes to original content for HBO Max, what do? Well, they invest we're hearing again, this is all speculation, all rumors, but there's been a bit of a I'm trying to think of the word here. Anyway, there's been a spacing. So we've got $20 million on the low end. That's rumored. And then I've heard as high as $70 million on the high end. So somewhere in that range of $50 million roughly. And the reason why that might be okay for them to spend, I'm talking the high end here, is because fans of the Snyder Cut, fans of DC Comics, of which there are a lot, would probably pay to get access to HBO Max. They probably would. You get people out there that would pirate, obviously, but you get people out there that pay for it. I paid for Disney Plus predominantly because I wanted The Mandalorian, and I've kept it because my kids like watching the Disney content. And if there's a lot of kids content on HBO Max, I can see the reason for keeping it. So it's a good way for me to get in the door for something that I want, and then also to have a value, because you have to have that value after the fact. If they're going to spend money on original content, like let's again go back to The Mandalorian. Disney invested $100 million into The Mandalorian just for the first season. $100 million for 8 episodes. We're all fine with that. We're all fine with that. You put all those 8 episodes together, and you're not looking at more than about 4.5 hours worth of actual content. Maybe less than 4. I haven't tabulated it all together, but you've got some episodes that are coming in at like 25 minutes, not including the end credits. So, I mean, it really is just, no one cared because the content was good. And so if AT&T is looking to invest money into original content, putting in $20 to $70 million to finish the Snyder Cut would actually be beneficial for them, because it would then help spur subscriptions. And during the COVID situation and the shutdown that's not really going to be changing, it's going to be delaying everything for about a year, then that's going to give them some content in order to be able to get people interested and get people paying for it. It just seems to make the most amount of sense. And I think that where we are right now is very much in a place, everything else. Wow, hold on. I just got sent this tweet. I had earlier mentioned Peter Scaretta and how he was kind of talking crap about it. And just on Twitter about an hour ago, he says, I was wrong. It's happening. Everyone is saying it's happening. Words are saying it's come on, guys. At this point, it's happening. At this point, it's happening. Look, if you guys think it's happening, press 1 in the chat. I do want to see this right. I do want to see this. I think it's gonna happen. There's 85 of you in here right now. You know, I come on. This is happening. Now the question then becomes, what is going to happen after the fact? Because that is going to be the key indicator here. What is going to happen after the fact? When you see this whole thing play out the way it's going to play out, all right, or the way I'm hoping it, I'll be fair. I'm hoping it plays out. I'm speculative. Okay, I'm very subjective. I'm very invested in the DCEU from Snyder's vision because I do like it, and I'll be fair. I'll be honest on that one. A lot of you guys, a lot of ones. I'm seeing lots of ones. What happens after the fact? Actually, Garrick here mentions this, and this is what I want to talk about. Also, Garrick here says, "Do I care about the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad?" Hell yes, I do. Hell yes, I do. I was in Hall H when they debuted that trailer back in 2016. I was in there in 2016 in Hall H for the Warner Brothers panel when they showed off both Justice League and Suicide Squad's trailer. I was there. So I saw it. And or maybe it was 2015 for Suicide. Yeah. When did Man from Uncle come? I think it was 2016. Pretty sure it's 2016. I've gone to like 19 Comic Cons. Cut me a little bit of break here. But I was in the room when it happened. I was in Hall H when it happened. And yes, I really want to see Ayer's cut of Suicide Squad because I know that he only had 6 weeks to write the script and he had a bunch of ideas. And again, this is Warner Brothers executive brass coming in and really, really, really meddling with the filmmaker's vision. And so, yes, if I support wanting to see Zack Snyder's vision, that vision, then I want to see the Ayer cut as well. And I would say, like, let me see the Patty Jenkins cut of Wonder Woman, but I don't think they messed with that one at all. I don't think they did. But I'd love to see that. And I would love to see, how it connects with what, Snyder had set up. I want to see more from that. Let's see. JM $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Jay. If this movie does release, how do I think Andy and Jody will spin it? Oh man, it's going to be fun to watch that. It's going to be fun to watch the a lot of the. I always, Jody specifically is going to come out and say, "No, I was always saying it was going to happen, man. I've always loved Zack Snyder. I've always been on this. I've never said an unkind word about the man at all." And then Andy will own up to it. Andy will own up to it, I think. But I don't, but you have to give him crap for it. Like, you cannot let him walk away unscathed. And I say that because he attacked people over it. If he just would have disagreed politely, it would have been a different scenario. But Blandy Andy attacked a lot of people over it, and he went after them and defamed them. And I'll bring it up again. This is him from just a couple days ago, calling Humberto Gonzalez, calling him a hack, and that he spits out lies. Is that apology going to happen? It probably will happen, but at the same time, he says it. So yeah, they're going to spin it, dude. Everyone's going to spin it, man. Everyone's going to spin it. But here's the biggest thing with that, Jay. This is the truth. People like Film Gob are going to have all of that stuff logged. I guarantee you. He's going to dunk on them so hard that they're not going to be able to talk about DC related properties for a while. He's going to dunk on them so hard. What I'm waiting for is the Campia. Is Campia to have to come out in a minute? Because I'm looking forward to tomorrow on the show. I'll have to respond to it tomorrow. I'm gonna have to watch it when I get up in the morning and everything, because it really does boil down to that. Like, Campia is gonna, he's been a big ardent no, it never happened sort of thing. Even though his homie Schnepp was all like, no, it definitely exists. Before, unfortunately, Rip Schnepp. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. That's gonna be pretty funny to me. Thank you very much for the super chat, dude. I appreciate it. Oh my god. Okay, Anthony says it was 2015. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. The Batman is on a different universe. It is for now. I don't think it's going to stay there, if I'm being honest. So, okay. So Dave here says HBO Max will not be available in Europe. Release a Snyder Cut will very likely be streamed on Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Sky instead. I disagree. It's not going to be okay. Again, let's kind of pump the brakes a second. I'm having a lot of fun. Let's pump the brakes for a quick second. When we think about what they're going to do with this, is they're not going to spend the money to have it go to Netflix or Amazon or someplace else. They want this for HBO Max, meaning this isn't going to come out when it launches. And they might do it. They might do what Disney did with Mandalorian, which was release it here in the States first, I think in Denmark or something, and then from there, but Disney Plus wasn't available in the UK yet, as well as a lot of other territories. And then when it did finally launch there, they still released it week to week, which made no goddamn sense to me whatsoever. At that point, everyone in the UK that wanted to see it, they torrented the damn thing or they watched it through VPNs. Like how I got to see the series finale of Clone Wars 12 hours early because it was released on, I watched it through a VPN. And I don't feel bad about that at all because I pay for the service. So no, people if they're gonna invest the money, they're gonna want it to be on the to be something that those people are gonna be able to get in those territories. So they'll hold off on that. But I see your point. But I just want to make sure I talk about that one. Let's see. Do I think that the Green Lantern show will be CW quality or better? If it's Berlanti, it's gonna be CW quality, man. Okay, so. Nick here says, when this COVID thing ends, I would love to see a limited screening of Zack Snyder Justice League. That would be the next step, in my opinion. So again, here's where we're going to run into a bit the next phase, because as much as I think Warner's and AT&T, like they might be, AT&T at this point is probably looking at this going, let's try to make this a reality. Okay. And then we're going to look at it like right now, like this. So you've got that, but Kevin Smith did say it best. He did. And if I still had the clip, I would play it, but I don't have it queued up. He says that what happens when this comes out and fans are like, wait, we got our way. And then they're going to want, what if they want more? What if they keep pushing for DCEU to fall in line with Snyder's vision, to continue that storyline, to continue with those characters in that fashion. Now, right now, the DCEU has moved around a little bit. We've got Birds of Prey, we had Shazam, we had Aquaman. All of them are, with the exception of, I would say, Aquaman was its own distinct thing, and I thought James Wan did an amazing job with that. I love Aquaman. Such a fun adventure film. Birds of Prey was not good, but it was aesthetically in line, and I'm air quoting aesthetically, in line with what Ayer had created. Just Kathy Yan was a little bit too clean with the imagery, not as gritty as Ayer can bring to the table. I mean, look at End of Watch if you want, or Fury, for crying out loud, if you want to see gritty David Ayer, or Bright on Netflix, for that fact. And then Shazam, I think David F. Sandberg did a really good job keeping it, again, tonally in line with what we saw out of Snyder. And I would love to see David F. Sandberg have more of a prominent role. And yes, and that was a New Line movie, but it was still DCEU. They still had it tied in. They should have got Cavill on board, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. So there's that. Let's see. Sith Scorpio, or S-Corp says, if WB wants our money, they will give the fans what they want. That is true. And the fans have been pushing for this for a long time. Remember in 2018, when you had the fan group in LA go to Warner Brothers lot, outside of the lot, and held up a banner saying, like, release the Snyder Cut. And it was in, they were in cosplay. This last summer at Comic-Con, you had that group that raised the money to fly a banner over San Diego Comic-Con with hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Fans have backed this insanely high amounts over the span of the last couple of years, and it's been fantastic to watch. Let's see. Story to Screen Movie Review Podcast asks, how do you think John Campea will react to the eventual release of Snyder Cut? What are your thoughts on the Robert Pattinson rant? I didn't actually hear all of the Pattinson rant. I started it and then I got distracted. It was like an 18-minute video. I'm assuming he was just complaining. If all the responses I saw to that were just like people comparing it to what he said about Gal Gadot. And I kind of scrubbed through the video, and he brought up Gal, her photos of her working out and whatever. I don't know why he'd be upset. Like if Pattinson, like, it's not going to be like, Ben Affleck in BVS where he's like got a full on butt shot. Which was, that was like Affleck, like, I'm in the best shape of my life, man. Yeah, by all means, show off my butt. Pattinson, I think in The Lighthouse, like, he, like, viciously masturbated in the scene. That's what I heard. I haven't seen the movie yet. So I don't think he really cares as much about that. And I don't really care. To be fair, I don't really care about, like, Pattinson's workout schedule. It's like, is he going to be a fat man? If he's, like, not, and he's just going to be in the suit most of the time, then I'm cool with that, but if they're doing like a workout montage like they were showing us in BVS, then yeah, I mean, obviously he'd have to be in shape, but otherwise, if he's just in a suit, or he's Batsuit or a suit, I don't really care. As for Campea's reaction himself, I think he's going to be he's going to deny it until he sees it, and then he'll say it was pointless or something. That's what he'll do. Let's see here. Do I think HBO Now will be phased out? I do. I also think DC Universe will be phased out. Let's see here. Okay, Bat Dan 530 says honestly, after Zack Snyder Justice League, Warner Brothers needs to beg Ben to come back to finish his intended arc with JL 2 to 3, maybe even his Batman v Deathstroke movie. Dude, when they showed that concept footage for Deathstroke, oh, that was so cool. And then like the ending of Justice League having Deathstroke show up to hang out with Lex for a minute was like, oh, you guys don't with me. What are you doing? Like, give me this. What's wrong with you? Oh man, yeah, they got to do it. They should. They really should. They really should keep with it. I think like I understand Warner Brothers and their perspective of like, look, we need to keep things moving. But it's been almost 7 years since Man of Steel, and we never got Man of Steel 2. BVS kind of operates as a pseudo Man of Steel 2. I think Clark got a lot more. There's a lot more Clark in the movie, which I think some people didn't really care for. I actually did. I liked seeing Henry Cavill as Clark and him going through the investigative process, trying to figure out who Batman was. I love the way that it kind of, I love how he did it. Because he was like, "Look, I'm Superman. I can do whatever I want. I could, blow this building up if I want to. It doesn't matter." But he's like, "No. I'm gonna play coy. I'm not gonna give away my hand just yet. I'm not gonna give this information out." And he played it very, very tactfully, and I loved that in the movie. I thought that was great because to me it says that like they were really playing up the aspect of Clark wanting to be human. And understanding the responsibility, like the responsibility between being a god essentially, and then also wanting to be human, which is why I loved the him killing Zod at the end of Man of Steel, because understanding the fragility of life for one, and the deconstruction of the character, and I think it just allowed him to experience humanity a bit more with that approach to it. And again, Man of Steel is like in my top 5 of 2013, so I loved Man of Steel. I need to pull up my copy and watch it again. Let's see here. Okay. The Deathstroke scene in Justice League is the only thing I really liked, and I'm pretty sure that was from what they shot with Zack Snyder. That was something I don't even know why were they just hoping that if the movie made enough money, they would just let it work? Okay. Do I think HBO Max will get more subscribers than Disney Plus? I don't know, if I'm being honest with you, and I say that because I honestly don't know. I mean, Disney Plus has the added benefit of there being a global pandemic. And let's be fair, that's an added benefit. That they went from like 25 million paid members, I think in the first couple months, to 55 million. And now they're estimated by 2025 to have over 100 million. HBO Max is going to bring a lot of content, but Big Bang Theory is not something that people like you and me are going to watch. And they paid a lot of money to get exclusivity to Big Bang Theory, but they also have all the anime, and like they have Crunchyroll, and they've got Rick and Morty, and they've got South Park, and they've got all those things. So on that front, yeah, on the anime side of things, on the animated comedy side of things, they're going to be able to then get an audience of people there. I think they're going to be more in line with Netflix in regards to content, but they're going to have Warner's has a lot of great franchises. So I'm interested to see where things go. You know what sucks about that, as a quick side note? They're not putting any of the Cinemax content on HBO Max, which is sad, because like Banshee on Cinemax is one of the best fucking shows ever made, man. I mean, it's such a good show, and like it should be on there anyway. Yeah, definitely bring back Ben Affleck as Batman, 100%. Iron Knight here says, at this point, I don't care. And I can understand your perspective. I do. I get it, man. I do. I really get it. For me, at this point, I care because I really, really want to see an artist's vision. Like I'm not much of an artist myself. I'm not. I've written and directed one feature film that's pretty terrible. But it was still my vision from start to finish. And I'm proud of that movie from start to finish because of it was mine all the way through. And that was a $500, point of view found footage horror film. Well, not horror, but thriller that we shot 10 years ago last month. And, and so when I look at someone like Snyder, who did something, so he 300, I love 300. And then he did Watchmen, and that was also just brilliant. It was such a beautiful cinematic experience. I saw it twice in IMAX, like the first week. It was such a fun movie to watch. And then, of course, it was so good visually speaking. The aesthetic was so good that the Watchmen TV show, while it pulled from the graphic novel, its visuals was still heavily, heavily influenced by what Snyder brought to the table. And people never give him the credit on that front. They always, I mean, I think, he's not maybe, if I had to give him a criticism, he's not always the best storyteller, but on as far as visual goes, I think he's great. I think if you had like a solid producer, like let's say Nolan, kind of like with Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel had a lot of things going for it in regards to Nolan producing it and Snyder directing it, and then them also kind of like trying to mold that clay a little bit. And I think they got to be a bit more playful, but it did go a bit darker in some elements that I felt really worked for the character, and they transferred that over to BVS, and the Ultimate Edition really showcased that. But the third act is still a little bit on the wonky side. I can agree with that criticism. So, but still, I want to see what he had established. I mean, people put faith in Feige. Feige delivered, but he delivered something that is just homogenous. And I'm not talking ill about the MCU. God knows I'm a huge fan of that, and I'll be at the next movie as soon as it opens. But we have to acknowledge that Feige has a singular vision, and that his vision, everything falls in line with that. It even looks the same. So, like when I call it homogenous, it's because the entire MCU as a whole is homogenized. It's going to play it safe to some extent. Whereas with Zack Snyder's Justice League and Man of Steel and BVS to some extent, and BVS, he subverted expectations time and time and time again. In 2013 at Comic-Con, when they brought out Ben Affleck and said he's going to be Batman, and the next movie's Batman v Superman, the internet was like, no, man, fuck Affleck, man, screw that. I was reading about it at the time, and then of course I supported Affleck as Batman back in 2013, and then a little while later they cast Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and the internet back then was like, no, no, and then they all loved her, and I was supportive of her back then as well. So I mean, I've backed his vision, and I will say though that originally I did not care for the trailers for Man of Steel. I thought the trailers were terrible. I was in Comic-Con Hall H 2012 when they first showed out the first teaser trailer. Didn't excite me at all. Thought it was kind of dumb. Like, what the hell is this shit? All the marketing for Man of Steel bored me to tears. The fact that they did, I think it was like either 10 or 13 individual trailers for that movie. They did a lot of trailers for that movie. Nothing really kind of spoke to me. And I think there's an old video of mine on my other channel where I said Superman is the most boring character. Because I do. I think Superman's a boring character. But then we got Man of Steel at the drive-in I worked at. And I watched the opening 5 minutes of it on the first night. And I sat there with my buddy, who's a huge DC nut. And we watched the opening scene of the movie. And I was looking at him like, we're both like, dude, God damn, that was good. Like, that was actually pretty effing good, man. Like, all right. And then I watched a bit more here, a little bit more there, And then I came back a couple nights later with my girlfriend and I watched it in its entirety and I fucking loved it. Went back a couple days later with my best friend, watched it again. The movie spoke to me and I really want to see what he's been able to accomplish with that. So anyway, let's dive this over here. Okay. So, Gal Gadot is hot, but she's not the strongest actor. Yeah, okay, fine. That's true. But I feel for what Diana is, she definitely embodies that. There's a lot more in regards to this. Like, people wouldn't think 10 years ago that Affleck would be a good Batman. But then we see him as Bruce Wayne and Batman, and he plays it really well. He's a card-carrying Batman fan. He plays it really well. Let's see here. Okay, Sean says, I will only care about the Snyder Cut coming out if it's on Blu-ray. And eventually it would. If they put it together, it would eventually come out on Blu-ray. So there's that. Anthony here asks, am I excited for Wonder Woman 1984? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. But now we have to find out if it's actually going to make its release in August or if it's going to be pushed back. Let's see here. Keo Band says, not a Snyder fan, but if they release a miniseries that doesn't affect the future of DC, I'm okay with it. And yes, that's actually going to be the bigger issue here. It is going to be the bigger issue for what comes after that. Is this if they do this and it's received very well, critically speaking, the critics are going to bash it. Let's be fair. We all can already agree that the Snyder Cut's going to have a 65% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's what it's going to be. They're not going to, they're going to attack it because they're all going to be salty little C words, C slurs. because they're going to be they spent a couple years attacking this movie, and then it's going to saying, oh, it's never going to happen. Then it's going to come out, and then everything. So no, they're but I think fans, if it's well received amongst fans, they're going to demand that this ends up being that this carries the torch forward. But that's a weird one. That's going to be a conversation worth having, because I mean, who knows? What if it's bad? That's a question I don't think a lot of people have really put forward yet. What if the Snyder Cut is not good? Have you thought about that? Like, what if it's just there's a reason why it went to Joss Whedon? I mean, you know, based upon everything that I've read about what would be contained within, it doesn't sound bad. It doesn't sound, but it could be. It could be. We don't know that until we see it, but it doesn't matter so much at that point as much as it is that we get to see it and we get to experience it and we get to see Snyder's vision completed. And I think that's what fans really want. And that shows you the loyalty that people have for this director, that people have for this situation. Let's see. Patty Jenkins played to Godot's strengths. She did, yeah. Okay. Hold on here. Do I think another Superman movie with Henry Cavill will happen? Yes, I do. I might be the only one to think that at this point, but here, let me explain why I think it's going to happen. So when you got to go back to the Shazam cameo controversy, because that whole thing that was right around the time it was like, oh, he's rumored to be out. He's rumored to be out. He's rumored to be out. And at that time, there was a lot going on with Danny Garcia, who is Cavill's agent. And Cavill, keep in mind, Danny Garcia is also the agent of and ex-wife of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And so she is a hardcore agent. And I think there was negotiations on that one there. I think there was negotiations that fell through. I think they wanted Man of Steel 2. I've heard rumors and talks. I don't know what the official story is, because I don't know if anyone does. But I do know that there was like all the talks that Cavill's out. And then Cavill posts on Instagram a picture of him holding a Superman statue. And nothing, he didn't say anything. He just posted like a little video of him holding it. And people were like, oh, this means he's still in. But then when they were promoting The Witcher and people were asking him about it there, he said, he's like, I have not given up the role. And that's, but we get to see these headlines, Cavill out of Superman. They're going to be replacing him with somebody else. Blah, 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 blah. I think, again, the future of Cavill as Superman does also rely on whether or not this specific film or miniseries or whatever does well. And I say that because the mustache thing, man, that was a big gaffe. That was a big, big, big problem. They turned Henry Cavill into Adam Baldwin. If you go and you look at Henry Cavill without the mustache and put him next to Adam Baldwin, they look identical. They really do. And that CG was terrible on the mustache. And I get why, Mission Impossible. I get it. And that was but still, they screwed up so badly that they CG'd out a mustache that was just like it was terrible to see, and that was a big thing. So I do think there's going to be another one. Nick here says if it's bad, then whatever. We get to see Zack finish his role. It's just a bad movie. If it's good, then we win in the long term. It's a win-win in total, and I completely agree. I completely agree. Story to Screen here says, does anyone think Red Letter Media's Nerd Crew will do a spoof Can't Be as Pattinson rant? Maybe. Those guys like to do that kind of stuff. Superman. Anyway, yeah, anyway. I love the name. What's going on with the Snyder Cut? Is it going to get announced? Everyone's saying that it's happening. Everyone's saying that it's happening right now. People who were absolutely against it 2 days ago are coming out right now and saying that it's happening. So that's something there to consider. What do I think of BVS? The theatrical cut was garbage. The unrated cut's amazing. I loved it. By the time, okay, I'll put it to you guys like this. By the time it got to the Capitol Hill scene in the Ultimate Cut, I was on the edge of my seat. I knew what was going to happen, but I was on the edge of my seat and I had goosebumps because we've got to see how the plan played out. And we didn't get to see that in the theatrical cut. So yeah, I really liked it. Does the fandom menace support the Snyder Cut? I don't know. I have really, I don't know at all, man. Let's see here. Cavill won't have the time to play another Man of Steel because he's busy with Witcher. Well, that may or may not be the case, and that's going to be something Netflix is going to have to negotiate with Warner Brothers. So because The Witcher, they've got I think 5 seasons planned or something. They have a lot they want to do with it, but they only shoot for like I think like 6 months. So it's like there's still 6 months he could do other things. They could schedule it for him to work. And I do think that stagecraft technology is going to be the norm going forward. That technology is going to allow them to shoot so much for so cheap and everything else. Like in fact, I was reading an article the other day that talked about how stagecraft technology is now in demand because of COVID-19 and because of shutdown productions. So I mean, Disney is going to be able to make a lot of money by renting out that tech, and these big budget movies that rely a lot on heavy special effects, I think are going to utilize them for not everything, but for a fair amount. I mean, gone are the days, I think, of a lot of the green screen. This is what's going to be the future. They're going to be able to, I mean, look at Mandalorian and look what they built that was all stagecraft, and how it looked in the end result. You can't even tell. You can't even tell. I was watching Lion King the other day just to see the stagecraft technology at play on that one, and it looked fantastic. The movie was bad because why remake a classic? You didn't need to remake it. Nothing, the movie was unnecessary, but the technology was fantastic. So there's that. Let's see here. We got this cover. It says Snyder will be Snyder playing all the roles. Oh, cool. That's great, man. Finally, hardcore true journalism. We got this covered. There we go. Good one there. Let's see. The Jordan here says that the actual cut of BVS may be bad, but the soundtrack was effing awesome. Yep, 100%. Lunchbox memes here says if the Snyder Cut comes out, there probably will release on HBO Max. That's I think effectively what everyone's hearing. It's just crazy that it's moving now. Again, it's one of those things where it feels like you're at the end of this tunnel, this long dark tunnel. So okay, guys, I've been on for 47 minutes. This has been a lot of fun. If you guys have final questions, let me know. And everything else. What do I think of Scott Mendelson? He wrote an article the other day that said that the backlash to The Last Jedi finally shows that fans like Luke Skywalker. And I wanted to punch my monitor when I read that. I don't understand how that man has a job. I really don't. I ask myself that every time an article of his pops up on Forbes, and I just ask myself, why? Is there no God? That's what I think of Scott Mendelson. Let's see. If HBO Max came out with another DC show besides the possible episodic Snyder Cut, what would I want to see? I want to see Batman's Rogues Gallery of Villains, man. Give me a Deathstroke or a Deadshot show. Give me something in the Joker. I want, this is going to sound weird, but like as DC villains are like the better characters sometimes than their hero counterpart. And I'd love to see some things with the villains being done. That was actually one of my favorite aspects of The Flash is when they brought in Captain Cold. Because also Wentworth Miller is awesome and I love him. And they made him, pop up as kind of like, I don't like, as a foil for the Flash. But then eventually he ended up joining Legends of Tomorrow, and I thought he was great in the first season of that. So yeah, I'd love to see more with the villains. Give me a Gorilla Garage show, man. Like I would just lose my shit if there was a Gorilla Garage show. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Hold on. Let me kind of go back to the chat here. Okay. Am I fine with Snyder Cut being the last Snyder DC film? Yes, I am. If it completes his vision and it's not though. It's going to end on a cliffhanger, especially if you know the ending of the movie, which I do know the ending of the movie because I've listened to him talk about it. At least what would have popped up towards the ending of the movie. You would see, with what happens, it would definitely lead into a part 2. And I think if they do that, they're going to have to this is the problem with that is they're really going to have to work on quelling expectations after the fact. Because as soon as the Snyder Cut comes out, whether it's a movie or episodic release, and they get to the end and there's that cliffhanger, right? There's that nice reveal at the end. Fans are then going to be clamoring for Justice League Part 2. You know it. And the thing is, they might do it, but getting everyone back for television, for episodic television, for a sequel, that's a tall order. That's a tall ass order. That may not happen. So that's going to have to be that's going to have to be the end of the divergent timeline, so to speak, because after that, what do you do? That's another problem with this situation is you don't quite know, but it could do its thing. Let's see here. Okay, all this news about Snyder Cut releasing seems too good to be true. I'll believe it when we get to see some kind of promotion from Snyder himself. Well, yeah, that's the thing. El Mayambi said this a little bit ago. Says I'd watch this on Wednesday morning if I was y'all. Just saying. So, and again, as I talked about too, Peter Scaretta even said that it's happening. So there's all that. You know, it's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. What's going on with this one? What I'm gonna need to do is I'm gonna need to get together all the YouTubers that talk about the Snyder Cut and do like maybe one big ass roundtable or something, just talking about where things are with it and what they know and when they know it and things along those lines. Do I think they would do another Justice League? Man, I don't know. In order for it to happen, and again, I'm just being realistic here. In order for it to happen, Zack Snyder's Justice League would have to blow the lid off of everything. We're talking like trending constantly on Twitter. We're talking massive social media engagement on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. We're talking insanely high amounts of subscriptions to HBO Max that last longer than just like 1 month or whatever, or however long it's going to take. We're talking like they're going to have to release it on Blu-ray and have it do really well on Blu-ray in order to justify the money that it would take to do a sequel. Because if they spent $300 million on what we got, they're not going to drop another $200 million in order to do something like that for HBO Max. It would have to go theatrical. And that is a big if. That's a big risk. That's a big risk given where things are. So I don't know if it would happen. Talking about Flashpoint, the DCEU, but like how many years have we been hearing about Flashpoint now? Now for a while, you don't want to start the Flash movies with Flashpoint. That just seems kind of redundant in my mind. But again, we don't know. Grace Randolph says the plan is to announce it on Wednesday, but it might come out sooner, meaning tomorrow. Let's see here. Okay. Keo Bands here says if Snyder doesn't say anything about the cut on Wednesday, I don't think it's coming. And look, here's the thing. I would agree. Oh, I've been cutting out a little bit. Okay. StreamYard sometimes after a while starts to screw up, so that could be a problem. Anyway, I am going to wrap this thing up here. I appreciate all I think at Max had like 116 people watching, which is fantastic. If you guys haven't already, please do me a solid and slap the hell out of that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe, check it out. We'll do more streams like this. If there's an announcement, I will do a reaction where I am visibly orgasming. Don't worry, it'll be audio. You won't have to see it. And I think it's going to be a good week for not only Snyder fans, but DCEU fans. And look, any way you want to look at it, the narrative has shifted. This is the last thing I'll say. The narrative has absolutely 100% shifted. 2 years ago, they went after this movie like it didn't exist. They didn't. We know about all the problems that went down with it. We know about everything else that happened with it, but they went after it and they tried shutting down all conversations a couple years ago. And fans have fought. They've raised money for charity. They have flown banners over comic conventions. They have done a bunch of stuff. And my cat's vomiting all over my floor right now, so I have to. Oh, gee, thank you. Anyway, he really did do that. But they've done a lot. You guys have held up your end of the fan bargain. You've done your duty, and it might be time to finally celebrate in the spoils of victory on that front. I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you again for watching. I'm gonna go clean up cat vomit now, so that's always a lot of fun. And follow me on Twitter. We'll talk again. Have yourself a great day, guys, and peace out.